new study indicates that smoking marijuana, or if you were a chronic marijuana smoker, it could significantly change the structure of your brain. Now, this was a study done by the University of Texas at Dallas, and what they found was that if you smoke marijuana significantly, and I'm talking about several times a day for a decade straight.
Long term, yeah.
Yeah, you are going to probably notice a difference in your orbital frontal cortex. So let me give you the way that the researchers did this study. They relied on brain scans. So MRA scans revealed that people who use pot for years have smaller than usual orbital frontal cortex, a region in the frontal lobes of the brain that is involved in decision making and assessing the expected rewards or punishments of the action.
That sounds like a fairly important part of the brain.
Yes.
That makes you go, no, that's not too far. I can jump from this building to that building. I'll totally make it. And if I don't make it, it's the worst that could happen.
So that finding of the study was really interesting to me, because absolutely the decision-making portion of your brain is probably one of the most important, right? Because you have to assess what the consequences will be for whatever actions you're going to take. But what the researchers found was that other portions of your brain begin to overcompensate for that change in your orbital frontal cortex. So let me tell you what they found. These regular and long-term users of the drug also experience increased connectivity between regions of the brain compared with non-users, as the brain rewires itself to make up for the shrinkage in the frontal lobes. Okay, so just to give you a sense of how they did this and how the methodology worked, as I mentioned, they relied on MRA scans, right? And they looked at 48 adult marijuana users that smoked marijuana 3 times a day for at least a decade, and then they compared those scans to those who do not smoke marijuana, and they looked at 62 non-users, okay? And they noticed, wow, there's a significant difference here. So they were able to show that correlation, okay? But when it comes to the day-to-day activities of these individuals, the chronic smokers, they didn't notice a difference at all, because the brain had rewired itself and other portions of the brain were now making up for that loss in the orbital frontal cortex.
Yeah, I mean, I read the story slightly differently than you, but I hear that's an amazing thing. I mean, the most amazing thing was the second thing that you mentioned, was that the other areas made up for it. That's still dangerous, and it still does suggest that significant long-term use of marijuana, that's a detrimental effect. I love that the brain works to rewire itself. I wouldn't, given a choice, want to force my brain to do that. It's a nice fallback option if you're determined to smoke marijuana 3 times a day for 10 years. I would just say to people who want to smoke marijuana, so smoke it a little less.
Yeah.
Smoke it 5 times a week.
Right.
You know, for 10 years, and then maybe this part, maybe you don't need to rewire your brain.
Yeah, no, look, I would prefer that doesn't happen either. But what I find really interesting about studies like this is they have to really, really reach, they have to go out of their way to find some harm that marijuana does to you. And even in this case, when it comes to your brain structure, and when it comes to the way that you react to the drug on a day-to-day basis, it doesn't have enough of a negative impact for you to make the argument that this is a public health issue and we should prohibit it, we should make it illegal, we should criminalize it, we should go after people who have it. I mean, if this is the most harm it does, if you have to literally smoke it 3 times a day for a decade straight for you to notice a difference in a portion of your brain, and even then the rest of your brain overcompensates for it and you're still fine every single day, then I don't see the argument in favor of criminalizing it.
No, there's no argument here to criminalize it. What there is of course a complicated argument that it's okay to say, hey, probably don't do this 3 times a day for 10 years. Maybe don't do this every day for 10 years. Or if you do, try to keep it to once a day, or it will affect your brain. Affecting your brain in a tangible way is something that we should take note of. Yeah. And that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's really no different than alcohol. We can't suddenly go ahead. I mean, somebody who had 3 drinks a day for 10 years, we would call that person an alcoholic.
Right.
And there would be liver damage and there would be brain damage.
Wait, 3 drinks a day is considered alcoholism?
Well, if you're big enough to handle it. Okay. So somebody like you can handle 3 drinks a day.
Okay, I was just making sure.
Yeah.